As I strolled into the kitchen, lo and behold, I stumbled upon a boisterous bonanza of chaos, the mother of all crap games. It was like the crew decided to throw a wild party on a laid-out blanket. Sailors, armed with dice, were in the midst of their seafaring shenanigans, and a handful of Marines were scattered among them like misplaced chess pieces. But fear not, for I, the brave culinary adventurer, decided to join the fun and infuse this merrymaking mess with some fresh flavor. After all, who could resist the allure of dice, sweat, and the occasional all-might-it in the midst of the galley? Ahoy, new blood coming through! As I gazed at the play for a hot minute, I couldn't help but notice that the crew was no bunch of greenhorns. They were seasoned veterans of mischief and cunning. These were not the kind of folks you could easily swindle with your typical shenanigans. And there I stood, with brains to spare, knowing that relying on sheer luck would be as wise as trying to teach a parrot advanced calculus. But the cabin fever had gotten to me, and I thought, what the blazes, why not throw caution to the wind and spice up my life with a few bucks and some thrill? So, with a glint of mischief in my eye, I snatched a crisp $40 from my stash, swearing to myself that I'd quit the moment it vanished into the black hole of gambling. I might have craved amusement, but hey, I wasn't about to dive headfirst into the abyss of idiocy. For a good half hour, I played it safe, covering those straight-side bets like a meticulous hedgehog, managing to maintain a mediocre balance. It was like I was trapped in a time-wasting limbo, achieving absolutely zilch besides prolonging the agony. Impatience finally got the better of me, and I made the daring decision to grab those dice and give them a whirl, something I rarely had the guts to do. I figured I'd shoot, and then call it quits, ready to bid the night farewell. Little did I know the chaos I was about to unleash. As soon as those dice made contact with my fateful hands, all hell broke loose. The numbers 7 and 11 sprang forth like eager rabbits, as if those dice were on steroids or had secretly enrolled in a gymnastics class. It was so astounding that even the skeptics had to inspect the dice twice, fearing they might be enchanted or rigged. But no, these were just regular old dice, defying the laws of probability with a mischievous smirk. Lady Luck must have been on her lunch break, leaving me to be the unsuspecting conductor of a wild symphony of 7s and 11s. Let me paint you a picture of the madness that ensued. In the blink of an eye, a mountain of cash, big enough to strangle an unsuspecting elephant, materialized right before my very eyes. The room was teeming with curious onlookers, but the only ones still playing against me were the two head cooks, sly devils who, little did I know, were the masterminds behind these nightly gambling extravaganzas. Talk about cooking up some mischief! As the realization hit me like a ton of bricks, I realized I had been a fool, letting my bets ride and multiply to astronomical proportions. So there I was, frantically scooping in the ever-growing pile of money, leaving behind only a measly sum for my next roll. But oh boy, the reaction I received was nothing short of sheer outrage. The cooks, boiling with fury, demanded a chance to win back their losses, proclaiming that most of the cash I had snatched represented their personal misfortunes. It was as if I had plundered their private treasure trove. The culinary chaos that unfolded. It was a recipe for disaster, with simmering tempers and steam rising from their ears. They insisted on a rematch, eager to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. It seemed my unexpected victory had left them with a bitter taste in their mouths, as sour as an overcooked soufflé. Lesson learned: never underestimate the wrath of two disgruntled head cooks whose secret gambling empire has been uncovered. The choices I faced in that very moment. The rational part of me whispered, just tell them to suck it up and make a swift exit, but my pride once again hijacked my common sense, leaving it stranded on a deserted island of logic. Maybe, just maybe, it was a stroke of luck in disguise, for you see, the rules of gambling within the military are a whole different beast compared to the outside world. It's a jungle out there, where the motto is never give a sucker an even break. Within the service, it's almost sacred to offer the loser a shot at redemption if you don't want to be labeled a colossal jerk by your fellow comrades. It's like an unwritten code of honor, deeply ingrained in the twisted minds of those involved in military gambling escapades. Now, I personally found this concept juvenile and downright unrealistic when it came to a cutthroat game like ours. After all, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, or in this case, a dog-eat-donut world. But I was well aware of the potential dangers that awaited those who dared defy tradition. The thought of an impromptu midnight dip in the moonlit waters sent shivers down my spine. I mean, who wants to swim with the moon as their only lifeguard? Not me, that's for sure. So, with a mix of caution and cunning, I reluctantly nudged the mountain of money back to the center of the blanket, and out of nowhere, I heard myself uttering the coldest command ever to escape my lips: cover it or consider this game kaput. The effect of my announcement was nothing short of electrifying. The kitchen crackled with energy, as if someone had plugged a toaster into a lightning storm. Everyone, including yours truly, was taken aback by my sudden burst of authority. Even I couldn't believe the icy words that had slipped out of my mouth. It was like a villain from a spy movie had possessed me for a split second. And wouldn't you know it, the two cooks, the self-proclaimed victims of cash shortage syndrome, started whining like a pair of teething toddlers. They claimed they didn't have enough dough to cover the full amount and pleaded for a makeshift solution. Well, I wasn't about to let them off the hook that easily. I told them, with a stern expression and a dash of sass, that it wasn't how the game operated. They either put their money where their mouths were or simply buttoned those yappers shut. After some hasty whispering between the cooks, one of them claimed they would be right back, leaving us to count the towering sum that needed to be faded. We had barely made it through $3,840 when the cook and an unfamiliar face made their triumphant return. And let me tell you, their hands were overflowing with not one, but two gigantic white bath towels each. These towels turned out to be their makeshift sacks, containing what appeared to be enough quarters and half dollars to build a fort of wealth. My eyes bulged like cartoon characters as I watched the cooks and their mystery companion embark on the mind-boggling task of counting this colossal mass of change. I swear, it was like witnessing a magical treasure hunt unfold before my very eyes. Who needs pirate gold when you can have a mountain of coins? It was a scene straight out of a twisted fairy tale, where the kitchen transformed into a makeshift mint and the cooks became the masters of currency counting. It was at that moment I realized that reality is often stranger than fiction, especially when it involves an ocean of quarters and a heaping mound of half-dollars. The Marine sergeant, always ready to chime in with his 2 cents. He looked at me, perplexed, and asked if I thought those cooks had enough moolah to cover my extravagant bet. Now, being the honest soul that I am, I replied with a shrug and said, "Beats me, buddy. But hey, why don't you do me a solid and run back to my cabin? Tell old McPhail to empty out our seed bags and bring M up here, just in case we need M." McPhail had to fight his way through a crowd that had materialized out of thin air, like a pack of sharks sensing a drop of blood in the water. Once he caught sight of the intense counting frenzy, he couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. With a bewildered expression, he demanded an explanation for this madness. So, I spilled the beans and told him I was about to unleash a mind-boggling $4,000 on the dice, as long as those crafty cooks could pony up enough to cover it. The disbelief on his face was priceless, like he had just witnessed a UFO landing on the deck. Then, in his usual straightforward manner, he reminded me of my wise motto to take some and leave some, because pigs get eaten. He shook his head, unable to comprehend how I had managed to dig myself such a deep gambling hole. With a tinge of regret and bruised pride, I confessed that anger and wounded ego might have led me astray this time. I went on to describe the absurd scene that unfolded before my eyes, like a banquet fit for fools, and the sheer disgust I felt for life in general. McPhail didn't say much after that, but I could tell he got it, deep down inside. Sometimes, words aren't needed when you share a bond forged through ludicrous circumstances and a mutual disdain for life's absurdities. We stood there, mouths agape, for a good 30 to 40 minutes, silently witnessing the spectacle of counting and stacking. It was like watching a mathematical circus unfold before our very eyes. And when the final tally was complete, the cooks, with their magical bags of change, topped it off with some good old paper money. Lo and behold, they had managed to cover my audacious bet. It was a moment that etched itself into the deepest corners of my memory, like a tattoo of absurdity. Just imagine the sheer madness of it all. There I was, a wee lad of 16, about to roll the dice for a whopping $8,000. In those days, that kind of cash could buy you not just one, but two fancy homes. Or if you were feeling a bit greedy, you could have splurged on over a dozen shiny new cars, if the automobile industry was still churning them out like crazy. Ah, the things money can do! It has this uncanny ability to warp reality and make even the most innocent teenager feel like a high-rolling tycoon. It was a wild ride, my friend, a roller coaster of emotions mixed with a dash of youthful exuberance. Little did I know that this seemingly never-ending pile of cash would become a tale to be told for ages, like a legend passed down through generations of gamblers and dreamers. The dramatic build-up was palpable as I prepared to take my shot. It was as if I had transformed into a revered holy figure, about to lead a prayer service. The crowd fell into a hushed silence, and those who were within arm's reach respectfully shuffled back to give me the necessary shooting space. It was a sight to behold. Now, here's the kicker. While everyone around me was assuming I must be sweating bullets under the weight of this momentous roll, I was actually as cool as a cucumber. In fact, I was thoroughly amused by how off-base their expectations were about my state of mind. The looks on their faces screamed, "Oh, the pressure! He must be on the verge of a nervous breakdown." Little did they know, I was the epitome of indifference. My mind was clear, relaxed, and blissfully unfazed. But then, as MacPhail and I patiently awaited the completion of the count, a sudden realization hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like a divine whisper in my ear, enlightening me with the sobering truth. If those cunning cooks succeeded in covering my bet and I emerged victorious, I would be faced with a whole new set of problems. The irony! First and foremost, what on earth would I do with such an enormous pile of cash? It's not like I could whip out a giant dollar-shaped vacuum cleaner and suck it all up. No, sir! I would have to exchange it for regular bills, which meant practically every soul on that ship would be lining up to take their fair share. Can you imagine the chaos? It would be like a frenzy at a discounted buffet, with everyone scrambling to get their hands on a couple of dollars. But wait, it gets even better. Once I managed to distribute the cash to the masses, I would be left with the perilous task of carrying a wad of money all over the South Pacific. Now, let me tell you, that's a recipe for disaster. Just picture me, a young lad, wandering around with a target painted on my back, like a walking piggy bank waiting to be smashed. It wasn't exactly a scenario that filled me with boundless optimism. So, you see why the thrill of winning didn't exactly set my heart aflutter. The potential pitfalls and perils far outweighed any temporary satisfaction that a victory might bring. It was a classic case of be careful what you wish for, or in my case, be wary of what you roll for. With a final inspection of the dice and a courageous declaration of "here goes nothing," I hurled them with all my might against the backboard at the end of the blanket. Time seemed to stand still for a moment as I caught a glimpse of one die showing a promising 6, signaling a potential winning pass. But fate had other plans. The other die, in a mischievous twist of fate, bounced off a stack of quarters and landed on another 6, giving me the notorious craps in boxcars, 12. It was like a cosmic slap in the face. In a frenzy of panic, the cook swooped in and snatched the corners of the blanket, hastily tying it up like a makeshift treasure sack, as if to safeguard it from would-be plunderers. The sight was both comical and absurd, as if I had just stumbled upon the world's most precious pile of laundry. I turned to MacPhail, a glimmer of mischief dancing in my eyes, and casually asked if he fancied sticking around for a cup of coffee. Poor MacPhail looked at me as if I had lost my marbles and muttered something about not thinking it was a good idea. The missed opportunity for some post-disaster caffeine bonding. As we trudged back to the cabin, McPhail couldn't help but inquire about the size of my ill-fated pot. When I revealed that I had started with a measly $15, his head shook in disbelief. It was a moment where the absurdity of the situation fully hit home, like a giant slapstick comedy routine unfolding before our very eyes. Later, as I lay on my bunk, drifting off to sleep, McPhail, in his attempt to offer solace, tried to reassure me. He uttered those famous last words, "Don't feel bad, Noby, you only lost $15. The sweet comfort of a friend's attempt to lessen the sting of financial defeat. At least I could take solace in the fact that my loss hadn't bankrupted me completely. It's all about finding the silver lining, even when it's coated in the dust of craps and boxcars. As the realization dawned upon McPhail that I hadn't just been playing for my own gain, but for both of us, his face lit up with surprise. I couldn't help but seize the opportunity to tease him, so I casually remarked, "Well, my friend, if you had known, you would have had a good chunk of that money coming your way." We shared a moment of silence, then erupted into laughter, as if we had just discovered the greatest practical joke ever played. The following morning, as we strolled into the mess hall for breakfast, the cook greeted us like long-lost pals who had miraculously reunited. To our astonishment, he refused to accept our money, declaring that the remaining part of the journey was on him. It was as if we had stumbled upon a culinary fairy godfather, granting us free feasts and filling our bellies with joy. As we indulged in our morning meal, McPhail couldn't help but quip, "Well, with $4,000 in his pocket, I guess he can afford to be generous." The perks of being on the winning side of a reckless gambling spree. Later, my curiosity got the best of me, and I couldn't resist asking the cook about the mysterious source of all that silver. He enlightened me with a tale of custom and survival on a merchant ship. It turned out that it was customary for all those who dined on board to leave a tip after each meal. And as if that wasn't enough, he revealed that they also ran a lucrative after-hours coffee and sandwich concession. The joys of being the unofficial kings of late-night munchies. The cook wore a mischievous smile, as if he held the key to Fort Knox itself. It became apparent to me that all merchant seamen should come prepared for their voyages with hefty rolls of silver, for without them, they might just starve to death amidst the vast oceanic expanse. So, we emerged from this wild escapade not only with our pockets a little lighter but also with a newfound appreciation for the quirks and peculiarities of life at sea. It's a world where gambling fortunes can be won and lost, where meals can be paid for in silver, and where friendships can be forged over a shared laughter and the sweet taste of unexpected generosity. Noumea, the gateway to a year and a half of South Pacific island hopping adventure. This place had a history. It used to be one of France's fancy pants penal colonies back in the day. Yep, they figured, why not send the bad guys here and let them enjoy the sunny beaches and tropical paradise? Eventually, those crooks and their offspring settled down and made this place their own. Now, we rolled up to Noumea on a dreary morning, clouds hanging low and the air heavy with anticipation. As we dropped anchor, I couldn't help but notice that the harbor looked like a rejected set from a jellyfish horror movie. Yikes! Not the kind of welcome you'd expect, right? But fear not, because just half a mile away, I spotted the coastal area, and it was like a mini California with fancy homes perched on the bluffs. Noumea had a certain charm, despite its gloomy first impression. The town itself seemed rather petite, but there was dock activity galore. Boats coming and going, loading and unloading, like a chaotic dance of seafaring madness. Little did I know at the time, this little island was a hot spot for all things naval. It was like the South Pacific's very own supply and staging base, making sure our brave sailors had everything they needed to conquer the vast ocean blue. So there we were, in Noumea, a place that blended criminal history, stunning scenery, and a bustling dockside extravaganza. Little did I know that this was just the beginning of our wild South Pacific escapades. Buckle up, because the real adventure was about to unfold like a tropical hurricane in paradise. The magical land of Noumea revealed itself to us in all its glory. As the afternoon sun lazily made its way across the sky, we finally set foot on this mysterious island. Little did I know that this would be the first of many rendezvous with Noumea, a place that would leave a lasting impression on my sailor soul. But the first thing that caught my eye was a sight to behold. I mean, picture this, a bunch of white soldiers, marching proudly arm in arm with native girls. Oh, la la, talk about unexpected pairings! I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow and scratch my head. Curiosity got the better of me, so I turned to one of the guys on the dock and asked about this curious sight. And what do you know, he gave me the insider scoop with a sly grin on his face. "Don't sweat it, mate," he said. "They say those soldiers start to blend in with the scenery over time. The longer you're here, the whiter they get. Can you imagine that? It's like they're pulling off some kind of tropical camouflage magic trick." And so there you have it, the tale of Noumea's enchanting surprises. A place where unlikely pairs roam the streets, and the sun works its mysterious wonders on unsuspecting soldiers. But fear not, for I shall remain resolute in my sense of humor, no matter how long I roam this island paradise.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel and like the video.